Thank everybody for showing up. This is my funny little rant about puzzles in video games. Yes, they do in fact exist. Of course, to begin this discussion, let's go over what the heck a puzzle even is. What even is one of those? Like I know what a Rubik's cube is, but what makes that so puzzly? Well, believe it or not, there's actually a study of puzzles. That's right, a field known as enigmatology, which goes over just the general idea of puzzles themselves. This definition, of course, is very general, as you can see. It literally says it covers a wide range of topics in its own definition. So maybe not the most helpful in narrowing down what exactly we're talking about, but I think we can hammer down some basic bullet points here. Right, so a puzzle is a kind of trial or challenge that primarily concerns the brain. Usually, a form of logic, whether it's spatial, mathematical, or reasoning. You know, examples for some puzzles. Of course, we got strategy games, math problems, and of course the old Rubik's cube, where we're trying to apply our intellect in order to solve a problem. To go even further into this definition, specifically for video games, uh, for something to be a puzzle, right? We can't just have a problem that the player needs to solve. Especially because a lot of problems in video games are solved through action, right? Mario doesn't really solve any puzzles. So for the sake of this discussion, we're going to say that a puzzle needs to have a clear objective, right? Like, sure, we could stumble into a puzzle, right? But that's not really a well-designed puzzle, right? That's not really realistic for most game genres. You're not going to accidentally create something like that. They have to have an intended solution as well, so they're not meant to just be like open problems, right? This isn't a full. We're not talking about philosophy where there's many different ways we could possibly solve it. No, there needs to be at least one intended solution. Although, of course, there can also be multiple solutions or even unintended solutions found by the player. And obviously, puzzles should be fun. We should be doing it for our own entertainment. Let's look at some examples of puzzles. Here we have an old PC game known as the Incredible Machine. So you can see here there's solution. There's an outlined problem here in the goal section where we want this little guy on the Jack in the Box off to the right. We want him to land onto the right of the puzzle box, and there's different elements of the machine that have repeatable behavior that is like recognizable, right? We always know, for example, this cat at the top left corner is always going to be chasing this mouse, and this mouse is going to be scared of cats, and it's going to start running, which is going to cause this conveyor belt to work, and the rest of it, everything else falls into place from there. Now, this is one of the prime examples of a puzzle game with multiple solutions, often unintended ones, as you can see from the multitude of pieces that were not used in this solution here. That's what I'm saying, NCO. Yeah, but welcome to real life, all right? Maybe stop kidding around and grow up. Another example of a very puzzle-focused game is It'll Do. I played this one personally myself, and it's quite fun here. As you can see, there's definitely a certain logic to it. The solution here, I think it might be slightly off screen, but you want to escape this maze. Go from one end of the room to the other, and you have these blocks which clearly indicate how they move, and some bonds, which I think you can imagine what they do. You know. We also have puzzles not as the main focus of gameplay, but as sort of supplementary fun, right? Like, of course, a lot of Resident Evil games tend to have these sort of puzzles in them. This is like a basic little slidey puzzle, where you rotate hexagons to try and create the proper shape and all that. And here we have a final example of Plants vs. Zombies, specifically the iZombie mode, which acts as a puzzle of sorts. Now, there is a lot of sort of you know, strategy implemented in here as well, considering there's a real time element where, zombies die in real time, they react in real time. But in general, you want to have the main challenge of this mode is your ability to plan, right? How many hits can this zombie take? How is the best way to tackle this zombie, right? Like this Tallnet here, sure. You could have used a digger zombie to go behind the lane, but then they would have got killed by the split piece. So instead, you use the ladder zombie to go over the tall nut, and then a second one because he died to the attacking plants. Right. So here we can kind of see a sort of general flow of how puzzles work in video games, and maybe to an extent real life as well. Right. So we have a clear problem that we need to solve, and we consider potential solutions in our minds, right? Whether we're turning the Rubik's cube or we're thinking about where to place certain things, how to quite slide the blocks around. And oftentimes, we can try out different solutions or different ideas, or even just try the first few steps of the solution before revising it. And so there's the loop there. That's why I drew a little loop. So we try new solutions. It's kind of like a scientific method in a sense, where we're constantly coming up with hypotheses or ideas of how it's going to work, and then we try to adjust from there. And then obviously, eventually, we'll finally get that aha moment where we finally figured out what we're supposed to do the whole time. And of course, I applied this to the Rubik's Cube specifically. The problem is clearly the colors on the cube don't match. Um, so we consider multiple solutions. Okay, what if I turn it this way and then this way? And not some people will operate a Rubik's Cube in real time, right? They'll try their ideas instantly. They'll say, okay, what if I do this? And then they'll turn the cube and see where that gets them. Other people prefer to sort of plan out their movements, right? I mean, you can definitely go online and see Rubik's Cube solving algorithms. So people try to memorize those or come up with them on the fly. Either way, eventually they're probably going to have to actually try solving the Rubik's Cube and then see how they did and if they're closer or further from their goal. And then obviously we have an obvious solution state. All the colors match. Okay. So now that we've talked about what is a puzzle, we should probably go over what is not a puzzle, because there are a few things in life, and especially video games, that seem like puzzles. Like, yeah, it's kind of got like the shape of a puzzle, but when you get down to it, it's not really a puzzle. All right. Like lock and key systems, right? This is very common in like your Metroidvanias, Hollow Knight, you know, Metroid itself. Obviously, we have Super Metroid there with the the ice beam, and other games like Doom, which primarily use key cards to block progression, right? Now, these are great in themselves. I'm not dogging on lock and key systems, right? It's a great way to enhance your playability, encourage exploration, and create a sense of progression, right? When you're getting new abilities as Samus, you feel like the world has unlocked more to you. Unfortunately, these are not puzzles. It is not a puzzle to unlock a new ability and then use it in an area where you needed the ability. There's not really a lot of thinking going on there. I mean, obviously, you could say, well, you need, a good memory, or you need to like be able to apply the ability you gained, but there's not really an obfuscation of solution here, right? Like we know exactly what you're supposed to do the moment you get it. In Doom, when you get the blue key card, you're not thinking, "Oh, how do I apply this? Where does this go?" You're thinking, "Okay, I got to find the blue door now." That's not really a puzzle. Uh, for a sort of elaborated example of this sort of non-puzzle gameplay, I've chosen Lego Star Wars. So as you can see here in this level, there is a door, and that is the way you progress. And as you can see, it's blocked. We can't get through the door. Uh, but there's all this little glowy stuff around it. And if you know Lego Star Wars, you know you can use the Force on objects with all this glowy stuff on it. And that is the solution. The solution to the problem is you see a thing, you know how to deal with it, and then you deal with it. It's essentially as if it'd be almost the same as if the game you walked up to a door and the game said, press A to open. Not particularly challenging, not really a puzzle. The thing is that Lego Star Wars is actually full of these sort of non-puzzles. There's just, here's another example, right? We're gonna pull up a little clip here.
Oh, that's mini kit number 5. So now for mini kit number 6, you're going to need a dark side character. This is right after that last section. Oh, that's mini kit number 5. So now for mini kit number 6, you're going to need a...
Okay, so here we have some kind of a gateway that we need to open with dark side force. So what do?
A dark side character. This is right after that.
With the ability, and then use it. Okay, but now we have to enter this door that's only available to short people. So
after that last section, just ride the elevator up, and then behind that dark side character
we need 2 people to stand on the
thing.
front.
There is another small character chute. So yeah, lots of
gee, the lava's blocked. How are we going to
opportunities
solve
for
this
small
one?
characters.
What if we interacted with the one and only thing in the room we can interact with?
Here. And basically, you're going to want to use the dark side of the force to stop the lava from flowing there. And once you do that, you can then
you float with the character that can
hover across with the hover character to get mini kit number.
So we can see how that's not a puzzle. There's not really any other way they could have done that. The answer was so simple that you probably didn't even need to think about it. Like at some point your instincts just take over and you just automatically do what you need to do. And now for an example of a puzzle that's actually in the game, an actual puzzle in the game.
You're presented with 2 red mushrooms that you can use the force to push lower into the ground. The shorter one you can push all the way into the ground, and the taller one you can push down to the original height of the shorter one. The mushrooms will only stay pushed down for a short amount of time until on their own they return to their original height. And at the same height as the tall mushroom, there's a panel that only R2-D2 can activate, making it clear that the objective of this puzzle is to get R2-D2 to that panel. Now, I'm pretty sure the solution to this puzzle is pretty obvious to most people. Push down the short mushroom, then push down the tall mushroom, then switch to R2-D2, then stand on the short mushroom, then wait for it to rise, then fly to the tall mushroom, then wait for it to rise, then fly to the panel, activate the panel, and open the door. You probably worked it out as soon as I explained to you what the puzzle was. It is incredibly simple, but it is still more complex than all of the other puzzles in the level put together. Using the force on the mushrooms doesn't just turn them into a ramp or something that allows R2 to get to the panel. That version of the puzzle would only have one potential way the player could interact with it, making it just another key that you put in a door to unlock it. Everything in this puzzle though actually has to be done in the correct order to work properly. This is the kind of complexity that makes a puzzle a puzzle. It's just not very much of it.
So as you can see there, what it distinguishes the sort of lock and key dynamic from the sort of mushroom puzzle is not necessarily how difficult it is, right? It's not that it's so much harder, Unlike when she Lego on my Star Wars. Thank you, one in a trillion. So the difference is just that you actually have to think about it, like at least a little bit. The solution is not I need to do something, so let me do it, right? The solution is in what order do I do these things? What is the best way to do these things? So here we can see the difference between a puzzle and a non-puzzle is that, the problem needs to be clear, so it can't just be something we didn't even know about, because that's more of a secret, right? And the solution needs to be figured out. You need to take some time to actually realize what you're supposed to do. The solution needs to be obfuscated, is the key point. There it is, exactly. Thank you, Isabel. Going to the kitchen to get a glass of water is not a puzzle, right? Now, if the glass of water was, I don't know, trapped somewhere Or like maybe in an adventure game, right, where you're not sure where to get the water or the glass. You have to kind of figure that out through environmental storytelling and that sort of thing, right? But you know, getting a glass of water isn't really a puzzle. That's more like an action game, if we're being honest. You know. All right. Oh yes, this is kind of important. I don't hate Lego Star Wars, despite criticizing its game design. I love Lego Star Wars. I grew up with it, and it is a great kids game. And almost because of the fact a lot of the time you're not really solving puzzles or doing particularly difficult challenges. I mean, they added these non-puzzles elements into it, but they're still interactive, right? Like using the Force forces the player to actively engage in the game with in some way, right? Like if that, if you bought a puzzle that was just, hey, push a button and then the puzzle was solved, that'd be kind of boring. But since it's just a small part in a larger game, then, it's really not so bad and at least can make you feel like you're sort of progressing or, at least doing something. I mean, the point of games is to, do things for fun. Although obviously as you grow older, you desire some kind of challenge, but either way, non-puzzles are not defaultly bad, or they don't need to be puzzles if that's not what the game requires or needs, But it's just important to point out because I think as designers sometimes we forget what a puzzle is, and so we design something that's not really a puzzle and call it a puzzle because well we're trying to make a puzzle game here. Anyways, ignore this actually. Hold on. Actually, no, actually, just ignore that. Thanks. Thanks for That's the end of my TED talk, everyone. Thanks for watching. And of course, we have the Steam here, if you would prefer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. Of course, I know we didn't have too many plans for this, so I'm glad I got to be. Thank you, Lily. I appreciate I appreciate that. We also have the Instagram if you want that one. If you aren't already following, which you should be. And of course, the sign-in sheet if you missed it.